Hello, I'm Simon Adebisi and welcome to highlights of the 2012 Formula SimRacing World Championship. The Japanese Grand Prix is round 12 of the championship. The famous Suzuka Circuit is well known for being the only figure-8 track on the Formula 1 calendar and features a wide variety of corners, negotiating the tricky S-curves, the fast-sweeping Dunlop and Degner curves, the tight hairpin and the difficult spoon curve. This track demands a perfect setup from the teams and will certainly put the driver's skill level to the test. Defending champion Bono Huis took a comfortable pole position by 0.2 of a second from his fellow countryman Patrick de Wit, who made it to the front row for the first time in over a year. Jack Keithley would start from third, completing a strong result for precision. GT Amiga Racing and its sister team showed an excellent qualifying performance, with Jeffrey Rietveld taking fourth, Ivar Kalamays getting into fifth, and Rasmus Tali qualifying in sixth position. Yannick Lapchan again qualified in seventh ahead of Jim Parisas in eighth place. Jurni Simoncic showed a strong performance for Ash Racing to take ninth, and Fredrik Nilsson made a return to FSR after a 4-race absence to set the 10th fastest time. Jon-Erik Saxon just missed out on the top 10 ahead of Jarkko Mikkonen, temporarily driving for the R-Seat Racing team. Blair Disley made 13th ahead of Ville Lepela in 14th, and Networks driver Gergo Baldi had a shocker, only managing 15th position. A late allocation for Morgan Moran meant that the French driver would have to start from the rear of the grid. To the race start and off the line, Huis got away cleanly while de Wit struggled to get off the line. Keithley cruised around the outside for second while Rietveld tried to stick his nose up the inside. Just behind, things got very messy as Mikkonen broke too late, hitting Parisas and causing Baldi to run off track and Kostadinov to lose his front wing. Meanwhile, Nilsson cut across Parisas, causing him to run into the gravel, and Kolarek span off of his own accord. With Mikkonen trying to negotiate the course minus his front wing and keep out of everyone's way, there was plenty of disorder. More chaos occurred with Van der Linden caught out by the slow-moving Mikkonen, and Parisas helplessly slammed into the back of Van der Linden, causing massive damage to both vehicles. At the front, the two Precision Motorsports cars were in the lead, while de Wit came under another attack from Rietveld. Rietveld got alongside de Wit down the back straight, and the pair went side by side through the 130R. De Wit stuck his ground, but Rietveld completed the move with a classy outside pass through the chicane. Rasmus Tali was now up into fifth, having got around Ivar Kalamays through turn 2. Jurni Simoncic was up into seventh. Yannick Lapchan had lost a position, now in eighth. Jon-Erik Saxon up into ninth, though he barely held onto his position from Fredrik Nilsson, who remained in 10th. And Peter Varga steered clear of the first lap chaos to advance 7 positions to get up into 11th place. Back in 14th, Peter Burlak had also made an incredible start from the back of the grid, though he and Moran came dangerously close to an accident through the 130R. Burlak then put up little defence into turn 1 with Moran passing him up the inside, and later on in the lap, Moran made a nice outside pass on Uros Musculi to move up into an incredible 13th position after just a lap and a half. Just up ahead, Rasmus Tali found his way around the outside of Patrick de Wit for 4th place, but with the McCore team running very low wings, de Wit had absolutely no problems retaking his position down the main straight. Also using the draft, Rietveld got a run on Keithley, and the Dutchman took over 2nd place. However, by now, Bono Huis was already over 2 seconds out in the race lead. Morgan Moran continued to advance up the order, meeting little resistance from Blair Disley, and then making a pass on Peter Varga's inside to move into 11th position. With Huis, Rietveld and Keithley running away in the top 3 positions, Patrick de Wit was causing somewhat of a traffic jam in 4th place. While the majority of the field were on a 4-stop strategy, de Wit was only 3 stopping, and with his heavier car combined with very low wings, the Dutchman proved to be almost impossible to overtake. Tali again managed to pass de Wit through the final chicane, but with his very high top speed, de Wit once more simply cruised past the Estonian down the main straight to maintain his 4th position. Things got scrappy as Tali then made an aggressive inside pass into the spoon, but the GT Amiga driver lost traction on the exit, allowing both de Wit and Kalamays to get a run on him. With the cars running 3 abreast down into the 130R, Tali was extremely lucky not to get pinched between the 2 cars, with de Wit maintaining 4th and Kalamays moving up into 5th. Not wanting to be held up any longer, both Jurni Simoncic and Morgan Moran made early pit stops in an attempt to leap ahead of the train. As Ash Racing and Go Speed are effectively sister teams, it was no surprise to see Simoncic allowing Moran through, and immediately Moran showed his pace by setting the fastest lap. Back in the battle for fourth, Calamaze also attacked De Wit into the spoon, but he was able to make the move stick, keeping ahead all the way to the chicane. By lap 11, most of the four stoppers had made their way into pit lane, temporarily giving the three stopping De Wit the race lead. Yannick Lapchan, Peter Varga and Blair Disley were also on a three-stop strategy. While there was no change to the leading trio of Huis, Rietveld and Keithley, Morgan Moran had leaped ahead of the train for a virtual fourth place, though it appeared that the Frenchman was in fact 5 stopping, and so had an extra stop still to make. Ivar Calamaze remained in front of Rasmus Tali for a virtual fifth, however the pair were split by Jernej Simoncic as they exited the pit lane. Running on a three-stop strategy, Michael Francisconi caused some traffic problems for Ivar Calamaze, with Rasmus Tali just behind managing to retake his place back from Jernej Simoncic down into the chicane. Meanwhile, a disastrous stop for Blair Disley saw the Australian breach the speed limit, and he was handed a drive-through penalty. Peter Burlak was now up into 9th place, having passed Musculi, Disley and Varga in his opening stint, and the Croatian continued his charge, passing John-Eric Saxon into the first corner for 8th. Patrick de Wit emerged from his first stop just behind in 10th place, but with one less stop to make compared to those in front, he was in a strong position. Saxon then made an uncharacteristic mistake, running wide through the first Degner, performing a full 360-degree spin and dropping down behind de Wit. However, the faster-than-speed driver soon retook his position with a brave pass on the inside of the first turn, and de Wit then lost another place, this time to Fredrik Nilsson, the Twister driver making an inside pass through the chicane. Several laps later, Nilsson then took over Saxon with a simple pass on the inside. Morgan Moran then came in for his second of 5 stops, and although it looked like the Go Speed driver would have some traffic to contend with, Moran quickly disposed of Peter Varga and had some luck with Disley disappearing into pit lane as he served his drive-through penalty. Moran then moved up further, passing his ex-teammate and fellow countryman Yannick Lapchan into the spoon before being confronted with Patrick de Wit. Moran quickly made a pass into the chicane, but with his ultra top speed, de Wit came right back at the Go Speed driver, and the duo went side by side all the way through the opening turn, with de Wit bravely sticking to the outside before emerging back out in front. With neither driver willing to yield, the pair went alongside into the 130R before Moran switched to the inside to make another pass into the chicane. But once again, de Wit used the draft, this time taking the inside line as he forced his way back out in front. However, the McCaw driver could not hold off the inevitable, with Moran eventually pulling off the overtake on the entrance to the spoon, creating enough of a gap to maintain the position. The 4 stoppers then made their second set of stops, and it became increasingly obvious that Bono Huis was in a league of his own, having created a large gap back to second place Jeffrey Rietveld, who in turn was comfortably ahead of Jack Keithley in 3rd. Patrick de Wit was in 4th, and further behind 5th place Ivar Calamaze had a hairy moment into the first Degner, and after his first stop he appeared to allow sister teammate Rasmus Tali to pass him, seemingly to improve Tali's chances in his own championship campaign. However, just ahead, the 3-stopping Peter Varga was giving Rasmus Tali a headache as he was desperately searching for a way around the Hungarian. Eventually Varga outbroke himself into the final chicane, cutting across the track. He reluctantly gave up the place through the opening turn, but unfortunately as Calamaze came alongside, the two ended up colliding, with Varga coming off the track where the Netrex driver stalled his engine, apparently caused by having next to no fuel left in the tank. Lap 35, and all the drivers had just one stop still to make. Bono Huis remained easily out in front, with Jeffrey Rietveld in 2nd and Jack Keithley in 3rd. Patrick de Wit's strategy looked to have worked a charm as he was comfortably in 4th, with Yannick Lapchan up into 5th, also on a 3-stopper. Rasmus Tali was in 6th, just ahead of Ivar Calamaze in 7th position. Morgan Moran emerged from his second last stop in 8th, just ahead of Jernej Simoncic in 9th place, with Peter Burlak rounding out the top 10. Moran soon caught up to the back of Calamaze, and he made light work of the RS Evo driver, passing him into the first corner. However, passing Tali would prove to be much more difficult, as the Estonian was not going to give up without a fight. Eventually the pair went into the spoon alongside, but Tali shut the door and contact was made, with Tali slipping off the track, dropping behind Moran. Tali came back at Moran, passing him just before the 130R, but Moran kept the GT Omega driver under pressure, and Tali ran too deep into the chicane, handing the place back to Moran. The final set of stops revealed the true order of the field. De Wit left pit lane just in front of Tali and Calames, while in turn Moran's final stop put him just in front of De Wit in 4th place. While Moran would drive away easily, De Wit would have his hands full keeping Tali behind him. Meanwhile, Lapchan's strategy hadn't quite worked as well, with the Frenchman now down into 9th place, with Peter Burlak all over his rear wing. Despite initially doing a good job of keeping Burlak in his rears, Lapchan eventually made a slight mistake into the opening corner, allowing the Twister driver to slip through with just 5 laps still remaining. Patrick de Wit then also made a small mistake, locking up into the hairpin, letting Tali gain right up to his rear wing. Out of the spoon, Tali then got a great draft on de Wit, and the pair went through the 130R side by side. Tali seemed to get out in front, but de Wit held the inside and broke very late. The two came together with Tali forced to take to the grass as de Wit drove on ahead, where he would maintain his place all the way to the finish line. Driving yet another Grand Prix in an utterly dominating fashion, Bono Huis never looked in any doubt, taking the checkered flag for career victory number 31, moving one step closer to sealing the 2012 championship. Jeffrey Rietveld also drove his typical solid race, doing a brilliant job for GT Amiga Racing, taking his 4th podium in a row. And just like at Spain, Jack Keithley slowed down before the finish line in order to avoid gaining too many points so that the Briton could continue to compete in his lower division. This meant that Morgan Moran would pick up the final step on the podium, the Ghostspeed driver storming his way up through the field all the way from the back of the grid. A very pleased Patrick de Wit held on for 5th position, the Dutch veteran achieving another strong result after Germany. Rasmus Tali would have to settle for 6th place, finishing just ahead of his sister teammate Eva Calames, who showed an impressive amount of pace here at Japan. Joni Simoncic also drove an impressive race, picking up a good result for Ash Racing in 8th position. Peter Burlak once again came up through the rear of the field, as he has done on several occasions this season, ultimately taking 9th place, and Yannick Lapchan held on for the final point in 10th place. There has been no change to the order of the top 10 in the driver standings. Huis has moved further away from Moran, the gap now up to 57 points with just 3 rounds left to go. Rietveld has gained a significant advantage over Tali in the fight for 3rd, with Bowdy slipping behind as he failed to score today. De Wit can now potentially take 5th place if he can achieve some solid results. Nilsson, Van Dorn and Saxon remain tied for 7th, with Lapchan still in 10th place. Precision Motorsports have now claimed the Constructors' Trophy for the 3rd year in a row, the German outfit sealing the deal with 3 rounds still remaining. GT Amiga Racing have moved further ahead of Ghostspeed Racing in the battle for 2nd, though the Silver Trophy could still go either way. ATR continue to struggle, picking up only 1 point over the previous 3 rounds. Netrex failed to score and Twister could only manage 2 points. De Wit's result has given Matt Core another much needed points boost, with the team still an outside chance to take 5th overall, and Ash Racing have now just overtaken Faster Than Speed for 8th place. The next race will be the inaugural FSR South Korean Grand Prix, and you can watch that race live as it happens at SimRace TV on the 7th of October at 4 PM GMT. And don't forget to join in on the Formula Sim Racing Fantasy League by following the link on screen, and you can also check out FSR on both Facebook and on Twitter. We hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I'm Simon Adebisi, and we'll see you next week for round 13 of the 2012 Formula Sim Racing World Championship.